Hello friends, welcome back. I am Rajnesh and today this session is going to be about NFS server. NFS stands for Network File System. This is a distributed file system. So before that, let's understand the type of storages that we have today. First is direct attached storage or DAS. As the name suggests, it is present inside the server. It could be attached to the server using USB bus, it could be IDE or SCSI bus. Network attached storage. As the name suggests, it's present somewhere over the network. So what actually is happening, the NAS server or the network attached storage server is exporting a particular folder which is shared in read only or read write mount by multiple clients. So if we are talking about NAS, it's actually the pre-formatted file system or a particular directory which is exported. Clients can use protocols like it could be NFS protocol, it could be a common internet file system or Samba file system that could be used to mount these network attached storage partitions. Third one is storage area network or SAN. It exports a block device. Okay, for example, we talk about the servers where we have to implement clustering. So what exactly needs to be done? It cannot be a single folder, rather it's to be a blocked device. For example, in case I am exporting a device through SAN, it will be visible to my disk as dev, sdb, sdc or any SCSI device. Okay, if we talk about network attached storage, rather it is going to be a folder, not a file system or not a block device. In SAN, we have a block device which is exported and received at the client end. So NFS server comes in the category of network attached storage. We are exporting a particular folder. So here is the scenario. We have multiple folders that will be exported and that will be visible to a particular client or a set of client. It could be exported in read write format, read only format, and clients are going to mount it and work on it. Now let's come to our labs. To demonstrate this, we have two virtual machines. One is infra, which is again going to be the NFS server now. So the first thing that we need to do is we have to install NFS utils. NFS utils is a set of programs that allow us to create an NFS server and to make this machine work as an NFS client. So this package is required in both the cases. This is my client test VM and this infra is going to be a server. NFS utils. So it has NFS client as well as server based utilities. Okay, so the packages are installed. First thing that we need to do is to start up a service that can take care of RPC calls. If we talk about NFS service, it's basically an RPC or a remote procedure call based service. So in remote procedure call, every service has a particular ID attached to it or a particular number attached to it. So when this particular service starts, it can be dynamically allocated any port which is free by a particular service or a utility which is known as RPC bind. So RPC bind is the first service that should be running on NFS client or NFS server. This service is responsible for converting the RPC service name into port. I'll show you. So first of all, /etc init.d rpc bind start and chk config rpc bind on. So if we want to have any kind of information by okay if we want to have any kind of information about any RPC service, the information can be obtained by the command RPC info. So it displays us this is an RPC program which is port mapper, which has registered to RPC service, and the port that has been allocated to it is 111, which is by default for port mapper. So if I am trying to start any RPC service, it is going to coordinate with the RPC server, and RPC server is going to check out the program ID for it and is going to assign a particular port dynamically. In case we want to assign a port statically, we need to configure NFS for that. And if we are talking about the firewall environment, yes, we have to uh, in that case definitely we have to one moment okay, so here we come back. Okay, so every NFS server, every RPC service is going to register itself to the utility which is RPC bind. So here right now we can see that only one RPC service is running, which is corresponding to port mapper. Now let us start NFS, but before that what we need to do, because our environment already has firewall installed on it or IP tables installed on it, so I want to restrict the NFS related services to be assigned a particular static port every time the service starts. So if I want to modify it, I'll move to /etc sysconfig NFS, and here let's search out for the ports. R quota D means remote quota. So this service rpc.rquota_d is going to take care of the quota from the file system which we are exporting through NFS. Lockd port, in case we are running NFS service, it is going to take care of the locks that will be taken up or released by the clients. And mount D, which is responsible and which allows the client to mount the NFS file system. Stat D displays the status. What happens is whenever a client or a server reboots, the locks taken up by the client or the server are released, and the status or RPC status is the service which is responsible for taking care of these locks. So as soon as the client is rebooted, the client held some locks, so all the locks that were held by the clients should be released by the NFS server. So this is what it takes care of. So stat D outgoing port, let's mark all the ports as static ports, and we just save and come out of it. Now I start NFS service, and NFS lock. Okay, so I have restarted the NFS services, and if I take a look at what all RPC services are registered on this host, -p the host, which is localhost, so I can see that NFS service is having a program ID which is 100003 and which is bound to TCP port 2049. NFS ACLs are bound has a program ID, this one, and they are bound to the same port. NFS lock manager program ID UDP and bound to this port. Okay, so and mount D is the daemon which has registered itself to RPC bind on port 892. Okay, we can see that NFS service has started. Now if I want to make a query from the client what all folders are exported, I can use the same command rpc info -p, but replacing localhost by the IP address infra.labs.local. It says can't contact port mapper because port mapper is not running. So what we need to do is we need to start RPC bind service which can handle the RPC calls. And switch it on. Now we can see that the port mapper is running. Now when I make a request for any RPC based services, it converts the program ID or it sends a request to the remote server, and remote server in turn displays me the result. The conversion from the name to the port happens or is taken care by the RPC bind. So okay, first thing, if I need to fetch out the details about a service from infra server, what I need to do is I need to open a port for the service port mapper, because this RPC client is going to interact with the port mapper to fetch the details about any RPC service. So from the server end, let's create a new chain for NFS. IP tables minus L minus N minus minus line numbers, and just before logging, means at line number 7, I'm going to redirect it to NFS. IP tables minus I input at number 7 minus J go to NFS. Okay, so for NFS what I did was, before rejecting or logging anything, it is going to send the traffic to the NFS chain, and in NFS we are going to implement all the rules. So IP tables minus I NFS minus P TCP minus minus D port 1111 for port mapper minus S 192.168.1.0/24 minus J accept. So accept port TCP and UDP port from our local network, which is 192.168.1.0. If you want to restrict it to a particular IP, yes, we can restrict, but for the sake of simplicity I am allowing the complete network, and I'll be exporting on a per IP basis. So now let's try to do an RPC call. So I did an RPC call from my client machine to the server. The command was rpc info -p, the name or the IP address of the server, and now I can see that this server is having the following NFS services: port mapper, which I have already opened. Now let's talk about mount D. Mount D is listening on TCP and UDP 892. So let me open port 892 UDP and TCP. For NFS I need to open port 2049 TCP and UDP. What else? And finally, corresponding to NFS lock manager, I need to open this UDP and this TCP. UDP and TCP, and now as I have opened all the required ports for NFS service, let's save the IP tables rules. Okay, we are done. So now the NFS service is exposed to the complete network 192.168.1.0. Let me check out which all are the folders which are exported by it. The command that can be used is show mount -e, the exported file system of a particular server. Infra export list is blank because it has not yet exported anything. Let's create a folder shared /etc export. Shared is the folder that I am exporting to which clients. It could be the complete network or it could be a particular IP address. For example, if I talk about this machine, this is 208.192.168.1.208. So what all are the options this folder should be exported as? For example, read only. No one will be able to write anything on this folder. There is one good option, root squash, which says in case the client has mounted this file system as a root, still it is not going to be acting as a root. It is going to be a normal user, NFS nobody. And now just save and quit. Now if I try to run the command show mount -e infra, it is still not going to display. Reason being, the NFS service is not yet reloaded or the file system that are exported are not actually refreshed. So to refresh it, export fs -r. Now I should be able to see the shared folders. So this is exported to me, and let me try to mount it. (192.168.1.208) shared. The way we mount is the IP address colon the folder which is exported, and where is it to be mounted. For example, right now we mount it on /mnt. Let me see what's the issue. So, oh, my mistake. This is actually the IP address of this client test VM. This should be the IP address of the NFS server, which is infra, and here I mount it. So if I type the command df-h, I can see infra. From infra server there is a shared folder which is mounted as /mnt. So I just move to /mnt, try to touch a folder A, but it says read only file system even for root because it's exported as a root. Okay, now the other thing is, what if you want to mount it permanently after every reboot? Umount okay, sorry. Okay, umount slash mnt, because I am already into it, and we will modify etc fs tab. Okay, sorry, I actually already did it. So it's the folder name is shared, IP address or the name slash shared. Where is it going to be mounted? My NFS or MNT folder, wherever you want. The type of file system defaults, and there is one good option that you can use, which is soft bind in a soft way, so that in case there is some application which is trying to access it, doesn't get hung. In case you are using hard, the application that is trying to access this NFS mount and NFS server is not available, application is going to hung at that particular point. And in soft, it is not going to, it is going to be timed out after 10 seconds. So it will make 2 retries. These are the variables that can be used. So, and these are dump frequency and file system check sequence in the last two, which are 0. So I just write and quit. To make sure that the entry in etcfs tab is fine, we just type the command slash mnt mount minus a, or it could be mount a particular file system. Df minus h, it says this file system is mounted. So after every reboot, this file system will be available to it. Okay, I would like to show you one more thing, which is you are using the same shared folder for all the users across the environment. Okay, let us see how. So if you talk about this home folder, I can see there are two users, Raj and Arsival. I'll do the same thing on the client. And what is user del? This is my client machine. So what my objective is, my home folder is now cleaned up. So my objective is this test machine is going to mount the home folder from this NFS server. So in case I have 10 machines, user can work on any machine, but still he'll be able to access the same folder from NFS server. Let us see how to make it work. First thing, let's create users. Right now I'm creating local users, but in future we'll be using LDAP based authentication, so the user IDs will be centralized across the environment. I set a password for it. Okay. Okay, so it created the home directories which I don't want. In the client machine I removed the home folders, but in the server we can still see them. Okay, the other thing what I want to do is these folders or the home folders should be mounted automatically on demand. So for this we have a service which is known as AutoFS. So we install it on the client. So how the AutoFS works is, this is a service which runs at the background and checks out what a user is trying to access. In case the folder that he is trying to access is to be fetched from NFS server, this AutoFS service is going to take care of it depending upon the mapping. So the main question is, how is that mapping working? There is one main file which is auto.master. Let's forget about everything else as of now. The most important thing that we have to do is, let's create a single entry in it. The first column says which is the folder. So if we are specifying it as a home, means anything in home that I am trying to access, it will try to fetch from the NFS server using the map etc auto dot, we can give it any name. I give it auto dot home. One thing that is to be noted is slash home should be empty in this scenario. Sorry, slash home slash etc auto dot home. Now the next part that we have to do is, we have to use this auto dot home, or we have to create this file to create a mapping. So what is the kind of file system that is present on the NFS server that we are trying to mount? To use or to have a look into some examples, you can check out etc auto.miscellaneous, so which has an example for you. This is file system type ISO 96660, so it stands for CD drive. I can see an example for NFS server. I just copy it, come out of it, and if I talk about the mapping that I did, it was from slash home to slash etc auto.home. I just paste it and replace it. So infra.labs.local colon home rcval. So what it says is, if I try to mount the folder slash home, which was specified in the first column, slash rcval, it is going to mount it from the NFS server slash home slash rcval. Let us see how it works. Slash etc init.d NFS restart, sorry, it's autofs restart chk config autofs on. Now ls minus l home, I cannot see anything. Let me try to log in as rcval now. Let's create a duplicate session. User ID is rcval and my password is, I entered it. So it says slash home slash rcval is not present. Why? Because it was not able to mount it. Let me try it once again. There is some issue. Cat etc auto dot master, it says slash home, the map is in this file, and here I can see one entry which says rcval fetch the details from infra.labs.local home rcval. Duplicate, I am doing some silly mistake. no logging at the client end, and the server says refused mount request from 208 from for home RCval. No export entry. Okay, did you get it? It simply says there should be an entry etc export that should be exporting the home folder. Sorry, I missed that part. Home. So what we did is we added an entry for etc exports, and now the home folder is going to be exported for this particular station. Export fs -r to reload it, and now let's try it once again. And here if you see df-h, you can see that home RCval is mounted from this NFS server, and it was automatically mounted on demand. Okay, what if I try to log in as a different user, or there could be hundreds of users? Now it's not able to mount home Raj. Reason being, it's exported, but AutoFS is not configured to mount it. In case you have hundreds of 200 users, you cannot add an entry in auto.master corresponding, sorry, in auto.home corresponding to every user. So there is a wildcard option that you can specify. So inside home, any folder if you try to mount it from infra.labs.local and ampersand, means replacing the same name. For example, if I try to mount /home/rcval, it should mount /home/rcval from infra.labs.local. If I am trying to mount /home/xyz, it is going to mount or try to mount home xyz from NFS server. I just write and quit /etc init.d AutoFS restart. Okay, now if I try to open a duplicate session with Raj, and the password is this one, so I can see that this folder is mounted from the NFS server. One more thing, ls-l home, and you cannot see rcval in it because that folder is not yet mounted. So I just open a duplicate session, and now I can see rcval also. So what actually is happening, we have created an NFS server which is going to export the home directory, which is visible to every client in the infrastructure. And what I can do is I can export it to the complete LAN rather than a particular IP address, and just do export fs -r. So now any client in our infrastructure can import or can mount any folder inside the home depending upon his permissions. Got it? So finally, let's do one thing. Let's export CD over the network so that it can work as an NFS storage in which we have CentOS 6.3 present, so that they can be used by NFS. They can be used by the PXE clients during the installation. So etc exports, I export a folder which is /media to the complete infrastructure 1.0/24 read only, root squash export fs minus r, and let's make sure that it's visible. Show mount minus e infra, I can see yes, media is exported. In etc fs tab, I don't need this entry, so I just remove it. And yes, home folder is fine, and for shared I don't need it. Slash etc exports, shared can be removed. So in this video we understood how to set up an NFS server and how to export the folders and how to import them in the clients. I have created a folder which is uh, uh, okay, home and media are now exported. So media is something that I'm exporting, and when I am installing these PXE machines, I'll be using this NFS partition so that I can fetch the CentOS 6.3 DVD from it. So let me make sure that it is working fine. Mount infra colon slash media 2 slash mnt ls minus l slash mnt. So this is working fine. Okay, that was a generic discussion about NFS, and let's make sure about one thing, whether the services are on. For client end, it's RPC bind, it's switched on and it should be switched on. If we talk about the server, there are basically two services. One is RPC bind, it should be on, and other is NFS. So here is your mistake, it's switched off. As soon as the machine is rebooted, your NFS server will not work because it's not switched on. chk config NFS on. Now it's fine. The two services must be running. RPC bind, which is responsible for converting the program number into the port number. Before NFS starts, RPC bind must be running so NFS can register its ports with the RPC or the port mapper. So that's all for today. Have a good day.